So I just found out that this guy hasn't prepared for anything. So we're going to do an hour show.
I never do.
What's he here for? I guess, well, you know what? Let's talk hypotheticals. Trades, specifically Jason Robertson, and maybe something the Rangers did. Let's get to it right now on the DLS Stars podcast. This is the DLS Stars podcast. Our Stanley Cup playoff coverage is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy, enjoy responsibly. And by Happiest Hour, your home base and the best place to catch the Stanley Cup final, just steps away from the AAC. The ultimate spot with 50-plus beers and 40-plus TVs for all the big moments every single game day. Happiest Hour, your favorite spot for the Stanley Cup final. Before we get to today's show, let's remind you that right now going on with the final and the finals is the ball knower bonus. And what does that mean? Well, in case you're just joining us for the first time, it means you have a chance and a double challenge for you where you can win a gift card to the ALLCITY merch store if you make your pick correctly. Here's how it works. First, you pick the winner. Start by picking whether you think Florida or Edmonton will win Game 4 of the Stanley Cup final tonight. Or, if you're more of a basketball fan, or both, you can pick tomorrow's Game 4, Friday night, between the Pacers and the Thunder in the NBA Finals. Then you browse our store, make a purchase of at least $25 or more. You can win a gift card for the same amount as your original order if your pick wins. The important thing is you must click on the link in the chat here on the show or in the show description so that you can then bet and try to win your gift card. That is the ball knower bonus. All right. Welcome into today's show here on a Thursday. It is June 12th. This is the DLS Stars show, and you can see we have Craig Ludwig and George Costanza is back, along with Elijah Don't Call Me Eli Smith producing the show today. We found that out yesterday, yes, Sam, the hard way.
We're learning.
Yes. So I also found, thanks to Wendy's, that those giant Frosties go down pretty fast when you're just out upstairs hanging out in the lounge and not talking to your show, getting ready. Chocolate Frosty with some chocolate swirl or so.
Is this a daily thing?
No.
Are they there every day?
Yes.
Yeah.
The no is, that's only, I had one on the first day of the promotion when we ate them on the show.
The no is don't do that every day.
Okay. So I had one the first day. I haven't had one since.
Oh.
But then when I was up here early today, there's like a dozen in our freezer right now.
So that's a routine now.
No.
Yeah.
You two got to get on the same
routine
page
for him.
No, but I'm saying they're here all the time.
Individually, I am not. I
himself.
cannot eat one every day because that's a bad
They
thing.
have been up there in the
But
freezer,
yes,
yeah.
they are up there every day.
Don't go up there.
Oh, I made that mistake today. I went up there and looked and went,
I got to go up there.
Think about when we watch games.
My
games.
Frosties are up there.
Your Frosty's waiting for you.
Yeah,
It's in
when
the
we
door
have
of the
games,
freezer
we're
right
up there
now.
The whole time, we're all going to be digging in those things in 7 months when the season starts.
Well, yeah. Wouldn't it be nice? You put it right in there and it keeps it cold. Yeah. Well, okay. So let's start with today's show. Anyway, this is the ultimate segue. Not really. Let's talk about trade speculation. Something that we were going to bring up yesterday, but Luds, I got a lot of feedback from people. They loved your breakdown of the penalty kill and the defensive.
We got a little out of hand.
But they were asking for more. I love it. They want you to teach us everything. I said, listen, I'm not going to ask you to do that every single day. We do it all season. You break down stuff every single game. The last thing you want to do is do that the entire summer. But we will do that with some themes.
I know we will.
But I'm not going to ask you to do that every day. That's
Now look at this. I wish we could get a shot of our producer.
Oh,
Like,
that's
it.
That's
is
why
rubbing
he's
it in
not
over there.
on camera.
We should have the button for the camera.
Elijah,
over
do you
here.
even have a microphone today? See,
And
so
he's also
He
learned.
doesn't want to hear
he hasn't
himself
learned
crunching
yet.
over there.
He hasn't learned yet that whatever we see, we're going to say on our show.
Elijah is
You're not hidden
crushing.
over
it
there.
looks like some queso.
There's nothing off limits
Chips
here.
and queso.
Man,
That's what I'm talking about.
I love it. Well, our previous producer, John, liked to put himself on camera a fair amount. He's not dead.
Oh, he's upstairs.
No, he's over there. He's in the other room. Anyway, he's doing the Cowboy stuff now. Let's talk about trade rumors. We have seen a lot of stuff on social media about Jason Robertson over the last week or so. And not just social media, but that's where you're hearing some of the NHL insiders reporting stuff, and then it's getting tweeted about, whether it's David Pagnotta tweeted, and he had a tweet that said, quote, "The Stars are indeed taking calls on Jason Robertson, but GM Jim Nill is hesitant to move him as they look to free up some cap space. I'm told they're shopping Mason Marchment, who is entering the final year of his contract at a $4.5 million AAV. Elliot Friedman apparently reportedly said on Sportsnet 590 in Toronto, Robertson's name is out there, could be moved to make room for a Granlund extension if Dumba or Lyubushkin can't be shipped out. I have more on those things, but I want to start with that. There's nothing wrong with a general manager, in this case Jim Nill, exploring all his options. In fact, that's what a GM is supposed to do. That's literally his job. He should be calling on every player all the time, right? To know what's out there. Even if the Stars aren't in on Mitch Marner. Maybe they are. I'm sure he's had at least one phone conversation with his counterpart in Toronto, because that's the job of the GM, is to be able to accurately know the pulse of the league, correct?
Well, don't you think after the third time bowing out of the third round, you have to
there's that too.
I mean, you have to I'm pleasantly super happy. I'm not happy to hear Robo's name and all the names that you're talking about. What I'm happy about is the recognition of we have to change something here, because we've got to be able, we're knocking on the door, but we can't get through. And so I think that, and it's TBD right now to figure out, I mean, if you're going to move Robo and you're going to bring back another 35, 40 goal scorer that plays the same way and has the same kind of mannerisms and everything else, I don't know if you're changing anything. So why get rid of Robo? But what it says to me is they're finding that the makeup of the group isn't what gets you. It gets you through the regular season. It gets you to win a division title. It gets you to get players that earn a lot of money because they're 80 or 90 point guys. But unfortunately, the 80 or 90 point guys get to the playoffs and they can't duplicate what they're doing in the regular season maybe. And so I think that what I'm most surprised or happy about is that it gets back to obviously some of my rants, is that you've got to be a little bit more difficult to play your opponents, and you can't get pushed out of fights. You got to be able to push people out of fights. And so it may be as simple as adding one or two different guys. Maybe it's another defenseman in the back end. Maybe it's just one more winger up front. But I think you're trying to change the makeup and the way you go about your business.
And that's the key question I had even before Pete was fired, was how are they going to look at this? Are they going to look at it as we're still so close, we make one little change, it could change the whole thing, we could win a Stanley Cup? Or do you look at it as we are so close, but we are so significantly, consistently losing in the same way at the same time, and make a little bit more changes? Jim Nill talked about it once he did fire Pete about his time in Detroit, how everyone wanted to blow it up and make the changes, and they stuck with it and they won. That's the balance. My opinion is with Luds, where I think that if they stuck with a very similar makeup, I don't necessarily think they have the ability to get over that hump, even with a new coach in the system. The question now is what we're talking about with Jason Robertson is no one argues that Jason Robertson's not an excellent player, a great goal scorer. He's got the second most points in this franchise's history behind the guy who has a statue out across the street here. But the question is, can someone do 80% of what he can do? You're going to have to
clarify that statement. He has the second most points
in a
single season.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Because I'm sitting there going, there's this guy wearing number 14.
This guy.
That has, this guy who's got a fair amount of points, I think. He's second.
His single season, 109 or whatever it was.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, no, but the big one.
We have a nickname for Elijah, Off-Screen Queso. I like that.
I love it.
We also have, I Love Misty said we should start calling him John the Departed. Since you look to the rafters.
John.
I don't know if I want to do that, but Off-Screen Queso is not bad. So anyway, continue.
Yeah. He ain't skipping a beat on them chips and sauce, is he?
He's got it.
He ain't skipping a beat.
He's got it.
Make sure that Elijah gets lunch.
No wonder you never find
from?
any buttons over there. Your hands are all
bring
full of
that in.
cheese.
You made the queso?
Do you guys remember the
Homemade
Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving we did last year? He made an insane crock pot of was it like it was like queso with stuff in it. The Rotel. That's what I was trying to remember the word. And then he also
but it wasn't the mild Rotel.
Yes,
it was.
You
I do
remember
remember.
that. Do you remember his?
Yeah,
did you guys have any of his cornbread? His
wasn't
cornbread was fantastic. Dude. Sweet potato cornbread. Was that what? Yeah.
Let's just call him chef.
So hey, if we have a show chef, I mean he's already
for game
going
nights.
up
We need that.
on Robo.
What was I talking about?
You were talking about him being one of the top scorers in the Stars
the only
in a single season.
Yeah, the big thing that me and Lutz were just talking about before this show started here is
When I was upstairs eating a Frosty.
Yeah, can someone do 80% of what Robo does during regular season and then add some in the playoffs while also opening up cap space, which is why I think the Pagnota or whatever you said has the Granlunds in it, because I believe Granlund can score 70 to 80% of what Robertson can score.
In the regular season.
He adds more in the playoffs, and he gives you a big gap of contract to open up to bring in some of the people that Lutz is talking about. So I think that's where the balance comes with me is the whole thing about, it's like getting a new iPhone. Can your iPhone do 80% of what the new one can do for $400 less? That's a better option.
Well, I think the cap space is the big one because, look, the Stars aren't looking to move Jason Robertson because they don't like him. They're not looking to move him because he's not a good player. In fact, he's both. They like him. And not only is he a good player, he's a goal scorer. Yep. And that is a really hard thing to find, right? There are plenty of players that can be setup guys, playmakers that are very, very good in the NHL. Goal scoring, the literal object of the game, is one of the hardest things to do, to put pucks in the net. And he's a natural at that.
I think also I should add, and again, something I rant on all the time, is I think these players can learn a different system too and still be effective. Like
that's interesting
so
too.
I don't know. Again, if you're looking at just replacing a couple players and bringing in a couple different guys that maybe give you a little bit of this, but if you're going to play as wide open in your own zone, and I mean space available, and lean on your goaltender again, I don't know if that much is going to change. But again, that particular coach is gone. I don't know. Maybe the group that's still there. Maybe that's the system that they like and they believe in. I don't know.
If you change coaches, to me, you're changing coaches because you're not going to roll back the same system. Jim even said, Sam, the other day, that it's more of a risk to status quo than it is to change. So you're changing that. If you change coaches, which inevitably means you're changing the system, it leaves in some regard, I think.
Well, yeah, but if you're talking about doing from within, who's here now? We've mentioned a couple names there.
I don't think they're doing within.
Well, but I will say this is the guys in Texas don't play that style.
Well, and that's my question.
Which was I've always been totally opposite. I'm like, if you're grooming your players, the idea is like if
shouldn't they be learning the system in the AHL?
Yeah, because
right?
when there's an injury and somebody gets hurt here, and let's just use let's use Sam Steele. Because it's easier. Sam Steele plays this way, and he plays in this system. So Sam Steele is hurt. So now you bring up whoever the Sam Steele is down there, but you just unplug one and plug the other one in, and you don't have to go through we're programmed. That's what we do, is we get programmed to play a certain way. That's how you get everybody to be on the same page. So if you're going to play a different system and somebody gets, well, let's talk about Petro. I mean, Petro comes up.
Yep.
Bischel came up. Yep. Bischel wasn't easy to pick this up.
No, and you saw it right away, too, didn't you?
He was supposed. And again, what it does is just puts hesitation in your game. And then as fast as the game is, you're like, okay, oh wait, no, I'm not supposed to do that. So now when you get caught, the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have to think, especially in today's game, because it's so fast. And when you have to hesitate and go, okay, am I supposed to go with that guy, or oh no, I'm supposed to go with that guy? By then something can happen. Yeah. So I think it's a benefit to have your players that you're calling up and that you're going to have here in a couple of years. To be able to just plug them in and we're ready to go.
Well, that goes back to my question. If you're going to make a coaching change, which most likely means a system adjustment, whether it's slight or severe, and you make major roster upheaval, is that too much change for one offseason?
I don't think, but I think when you're adding a couple players, I don't think you're looking for an overhaul.
Well,
here,
I mean,
right?
I think trading Jason Robertson would, if you were even considering that, which I'm not sure the Stars are that serious about this, right? I mean, you even saw the first tweet I was reading about from Pagnota, which was they don't want to. They're hesitant. They're looking at shopping a guy like Marchment. There's Elliot Friedman saying Dumba or Labushkin. Mm-hmm.
These guys aren't making these names up. They're out there somewhere, somehow.
Totally, right. And it's not coming from Jim because we know Jim Nill doesn't share that stuff, but it may be coming from another GM, right? Because they're being shopped. They might be hearing that.
How do they know that they're available? Somebody, especially the guy, they know who drives the bus here.
Well, because here's the thing.
I just don't.
The GMs talk. There's a GM group text that gets that some of that stuff gets out. What I'm saying is that Jim never shares his business until it's happening, but it can happen from the other side. Now, there's a difference, Luds, between, well, we should probably keep going because I'm going to start a rant about defense and all this. So let's wait. We'll do that on the other side here of the DLLS Stars podcast.
Just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get that done. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all either seen or been to those big box stores. You wander endless aisles, and somehow you end up hauling all your materials home, looking for an installer and coordinating everything yourself. Big box stores might have a flooring department, but as Sean beautifully talked about the other day, they could be helping you with floors that day, but it could have been doing sinks or stocking light bulbs yesterday or tomorrow. With Empire Today, it makes it simple. They have an awesome designer where you can look what floor would look like in any space in your home, office, our studio back here behind us. Makes it really simple to see exactly what it would look like and where it would fit in your space. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code DLLS. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLLS for full details.
Let's talk about Shady Rays. You know that moment when you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or at a gas station 3 states away? Well, I've been there too. Then I found Shady Rays and it changed the game. These sunglasses are made for real life. Seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now I actually wear my sunglasses without fear on hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We have teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Now, before we get back into the Jason Robertson talk, we have to do our weekly segment of Frosty Takes brought to you by Wendy's. Now, I'd like to make a quick point here, guys, and say that I love the fact that we have a partnership with Wendy's. I love advertising the Frosty Shop. The Frosty Takes is I'm having a problem with.
It makes us look bad.
It's making us look bad. So we have to do this every week and share with everybody something that we said that we say now looks bad.
Can we take it from other shows? Can we say this is what Jeff said and
we
that was
should
wrong?
Just carve everybody else. Do we really want to sit here and try to tell our viewers that we got it wrong here, and then next week we got it wrong there, and pretty soon they're not going to believe anything we say?
I don't think they believe much the way it is.
That's a good point.
To be totally honest.
So the one I wrote down for today, I'm not doing a clip because I didn't have time to go find which show it was, but I know definitively, and you guys will back me up because this is about me and Sean, so you'll gladly say, yeah, we got it wrong. I took cues from him, and he said strongly that Jim Nill's MO is he doesn't fire a coach under contract for hockey-related reasons. He lets them see out his contract. So up until Game 5 against the Oilers, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, I said Pete DeBoer will be your head coach in 25-26. That, unfortunately, is a bit of a Frosty take.
I think Sean said even if they lost in the first round, Pete DeBoer would still be the
And
head
we were
coach.
talking about it back then. Like, if they don't beat the Avalanche, because we were ahead of Game 7, if they lose Game 7 against Colorado, will Pete be the head coach? And we're like, yeah, of course he is. He's under contract.
You didn't hear me say that stuff.
That's why I said is my Frosty take.
I didn't care. I mean, I didn't want him gone. I wanted him to change some things. That's.
Yes.
I mean, it's not. I think he's a good coach. Obviously,
I think he's an excellent
good record
coach.
and all that kind of stuff. But I just think, I think sometimes coaches can be stubborn because they believe in a certain thing, and if you want to exist and if you want to have success, I think that's part of it. You have to be able to change.
I think so.
Yeah.
Wendy's is putting a twist on a classic with all new frosty flavors. I just ate one. Delicious. Find your new favorite flavor and clock in for sweet treat time anytime, including midnight or later. A refresh on a classic. Got to be Wendy's. At participating U.S. Wendy's, hours may vary by location.
These are excellent, too, because if you could go to Wendy's,
the Wendy's
and
tumbler,
get your Frosty in the tumbler so it doesn't melt as fast.
So you can dip more French fries in it.
Dip more French fries in it.
You put French fries in your shakes?
I don't put them in it.
I dip everything in there. If I get a Wendy's.
Everything?
If I get Wendy's.
That's a little more info than we need on this show.
My burger's going in there. The spicy nuggets are going in there.
That, Elijah.
My phone's going in there.
My part, his part.
My taxes. Put everything in there.
Apparently the Mando stuff, too.
Yes, my Mandos.
Okay. There's a lot of different ways we can take this. Let's go to this is supposed to be focusing on the Jason Robertson trade rumor, but one of the elements of it, Luds, has to do with the defense. I think there's a big difference between what Jim Nill wants to do with Matt Dumba this offseason than Ilya Lyubushkin. If he can find a way to move both to clear up the space in the cap, fine. But I'm thinking that the impetus to remove Dumba from the cap is a lot stronger than Lyubushkin, because although he got scratched those last couple games in the conference final, like Ilya Lyubushkin on your team, I don't have any problem with that, especially at his $3 million.
In the right
he's
spot.
a good player in the right spot. But if you have Miro on the right, and I'll concede that for now, right? Because they have 3 guys on the left already. There's no point in trying to force another one over there. If you have Miro on the right, you have Lyubushkin over there somewhere, you have Lundqvist, if he gets re-signed, which he's an RFA, you expect he would, and you have Petrovic, you got enough for now. Now, can you add something later at the deadline like they did with Cody Ceci? Maybe that's something, but I'm not going into the season with Lyubushkin on the roster being that upset.
I don't know if I believe that Petrovic is one of that group.
That was my question.
And the reason is I just
why?
think of an age thing. You know, I think
he was really good in the playoffs.
He was, but I think that the more he played, and sometimes the less he played, when they went with 7D, it's not easy. And there was 2 things I remember in particular, and one of them he had played 4 minutes prior to making a mistake. And I'm talking 4 minutes in 2.5 periods.
Ugh.
And because they went with 7D, and the other one was he had played 6 minutes. And that's not easy. You know, when you're in the heat of the playoffs and you got to jump in and you're sitting there. I think even Bischel made a comment about it, you know, about you're not in the flow of everything.
I agree.
So
yeah.
I just think because isn't he like 32, 33 years old? My feeling is that they want to get somebody, you know, different player in their age appropriate, and I'm talking about in their mid-20s or whatever it may be, 25, 26, if they can find them. As far as Matt goes, Dumba, I mean, you can buy, worst case scenario, you can buy him out.
Yep.
I mean, it's not, I know that's not what they want to do.
If you're on a cap problem, Petro's a minimum,
well,
$775,000. Like, that's a perfect, you're not going to get a cheaper salary cap hit than that.
Right.
And you know, like, to me, if he's your 6/7,
yeah, but this is all about who they can bring in.
Yes.
I think we can talk about
can
this
you
all
upgrade?
day long.
Sure.
Yeah, you're going to, and there's guys out there, I believe. I mean, is it exactly what they want? The hardest thing is, you know, I named off like 6 names the other day that could fill in there, but they're all left-handed.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That is a problem.
You know, and again, ever since you go back to Babcock coaching in Hockey Canada, he always wanted lefty-righty. He started that whole thing. Up until then,
it didn't matter.
This wasn't that big of a deal.
Now it's a huge thing.
Now and I get it. I mean, you can't hold up anymore. Things are faster, harder to make plays on your backhand, especially when you're going back to get pucks as a defenseman. You're getting run over. So all those reasons. So, I mean, I think there's definitely a way to do it. But the bigger thing for me is the Robo, the Marchment. That's the big one.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. If you were to trade Jason Robertson, why? What are you looking for in return? What are you looking to do with the space that you have?
Simple. You're looking for somebody to create space.
Yeah,
Since you use that word, that's what I think you want. Robo needs somebody to create space for him at times. You know what I mean? That's just who he is as a player. Are
you completely out on the idea of Robertson, Hintz, and Rantanen as a line?
I'm not out on anything.
Yeah.
And again,
I think
feel like
Robo, that trio is good enough. They should
bring
be able
in
to do
player and again, I could use a couple names that we're not getting here, but let's just use Tom Wilson. It's not happening. It's never going to happen. But if you had a Tom Wilson type, not that there are many Tom Wilsons out there, but if you could put him on a line with Robo, that makes a difference for Robo. I mean,
Yeah.
those are the kind of guys that they create space the way that they play. And all of a sudden Robo gets free and there's a hole over here because some bull came flying through here.
Well,
and
isn't
opened
that
up
what
reason-
Mason Marchment was supposed to do with Duchesne and Sagan, is to be the F1,
So,
the space?
and-
But
yes.
is it because he's also a left wing that they never played them
Here's
together?
what I think. I said this to Sam when you were upstairs having your 5 Frosties.
Oh,
So
man, I ate them all. And
I
it'll be-
said to Sam,
it'll
I
be
think-
full again tomorrow.
I don't think Marchment came here being a dangler, a playmaker, and dipsy-do. He fell into the description of the players that he played with. And that line, I mean, they created a lot. They did. And
In the regular
he
season,
got
they were
into
great.
more of this kind of stuff instead of playing in straight line. We see at times when he gets in and forecheck, I'm going, that's what we want from him.
Yes.
I'm not crazy on the embellishing, whatever you want to call it, trying to grab a penalty here
He
and
has
there.
a
What
very
embellishing?
Huh? Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Listen,
He
I'm
has a
wear a
very
neck brace some of the times. By the time he's
frustrating
done.
relationship with referees right
Yes,
now.
he does.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Including
But I
slashing
think
them.
if Marchment
Yeah.
would play more that, if he could add that more to his game, then I think it changes things. But again, when you're playing with Duchesne and with Tyler, they had this chemistry. This is all great for the first 82 games, but I think you don't just, we see this now. You don't just change when it comes to game 83. But I think if he had more of that, I like Marchment as a player. I like, and when he goes to the front of the net at times, he's got good hands and all that kind of stuff. But I just think he needs to be a little bit more straight line, go through people.
Were you
and create
disappointed
space
with
for people.
Marchment's playoff performances?
Well, we could be disappointed with a lot of people
Yes.
playing up front
90%
as
of the
well.
roster.
Fair.
Exactly. I
Right.
don't think we can. I don't think we should pick one player out. And a lot of that had to do with the opponent.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get to the areas they needed to get to.
Yeah, for Marchment, the one thing, you said it perfectly. He scored, remember that beautiful spinning backhand goal he scored on Winnipeg?
The no-look one.
That's what you want to see from him twice a year. The way he plays, what Luds is talking about, he's trying to do that 30 times a year. And
I want to
think
see
that's
him
the
scoring
balance.
goals at the net like
Yeah.
Zach Hyman
Score
is.
25,
Causing
20 of
trouble,
them
but
being
not
in the middle
taking
of
the
net.
penalties.
Yeah.
And
I think
look,
that's what he's shifted over a little too much.
$4.5 million for another year. He's not super expensive for a top 6, top 9 winger. But yes, I would like a little bit
But
more
see,
for
this
that.
is where I think that you have.
But do you feel he's expendable if you can use?
Well, it depends on what you bring in.
Well, if you're looking for cap space to
Yeah.
try to re-sign Matt Duchesne, Jamie Benn, Mikael Granlund, I mean Cody Cece's out there. I think because of the Rantanen money is probably too much, but maybe. But some of these guys you want to bring back. I think we all are sort of looking at Dodonov going, like him as a player, but can't.
With Pete leaving, I don't think he.
Well, and the
can
space
come
and
back.
cap space and stuff. Do you want Colin Blackwell back at 32? So, like, how do you fit all these with less than $5 million in cap space without making some changes? Is it worth trying to move Mason Marchment if you could to be able to? I mean, I'm not saying I know the numbers here, but what if you could somehow get Jamie Benn and Duchesne back with some performance bonus laden contracts for the space that Mason Marchment currently occupies? Would that be worth it to you? Or as Luds has said, do we need something different? Do we need somebody new to add the roster?
I think that's the answer, the second one, because if you did exactly that, and we were saying,
Because you're
somewhere
basically
around
running back most of the same lineup.
and you're running back the lineup that didn't give you what Luz is saying the team needs, right?
Do you think-
Marchment is the one who can give you some more of that physicality and stuff. If you're bringing back Duchene's not that player.
No.
Add that to the fact that he has his playoff woes the last 2 years.
And I have no problem bringing back Duchesne. I love him as a
but
player.
if you're choosing Marchment, getting rid of Marchment so you can bring back Duchesne, I just think you're further dipping into that offensive regular season success that hasn't translated and taking away a better option for physicality and grit. So I think Duchesne should come back, but I don't think that should be a either or situation.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think you can take Mason and put him with 2 other players and create that identity for him with 2 other players.
Could
I
you
think
put
when
him with a guy like Sam Steele and
Yes.
somebody?
Yeah, because
Like, what if you put him
that's-
with Blackwell and Steele?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Or-
yeah,
Or Steele and Sagan.
it's the
Or
same thing.
Sagan and what?
Yeah.
No, I don't think Tyler. I'm not saying that you can't have Tyler Duchesne and then you've got to get somebody else. Again, I don't know who that player is, but I'm just talking about Marchment right now. Here's what I think. I think that there's a guy out there that has relationships with these players, and I think a guy like Joe Pavelski would
Bing.
be able to.
Sorry,
I can't-
off-screen
I just want-
queso.
no, yeah, he was
a little
queso and
slower.
looking out
You
the
went with
window.
the
I
real
was,
bell.
I was
You went
only
with the real
throwing.
bell.
I was only throwing Joe's in there to see where Elijah was. No, but if you had a guy like Joe, here that they all know and they all care about, and vice versa. If Joe could sit down and have a conversation with Mason and just have a conversation with him and say, listen, this is what this group needs from you. This is who we need you to be. I think he'd be on board. And we're not taking away your numbers and the wanting to be able to make plays and score goals, but we need somebody that can play this way.
Yeah.
And so maybe he could be that guy. I don't know,
You'll
but
score more.
But you
That
have
should be
to
your
play.
selling point.
You have to have an identity line. Like again, going back, we had lines that everybody had a role. There were your top two lines, and you had a checking line, and then you had that banger line, right?
And Pete DeBoer didn't really like the idea of a checking line because he wanted 4 lines that were sort of
and
always
look at how
the same.
that paid off.
Well,
look at where we are.
Really well until it didn't.
Really well when? In the regular season?
Regular season.
Okay,
yes.
well, what are we sitting here talking about?
Yeah. No,
that's
I know.
what we're talking about.
Well, that's why it's changed.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. But, okay, we're running short on time again. I want to carry this over. There is a danger of trying to over playoff style your roster that it hurts you in the regular season, and then you're in trouble of not making the playoffs.
Did either one of these teams that are in the playoffs right now in the Stanley Cup final?
Thank you.
Where did they finish in the standings?
Yeah, not they didn't win their divisions.
They don't care. You play a certain style. We know the game that we're gonna play when we get there. We know the game that we have success at, or how we think we can. And 2 teams are proving it.
Right, but you still have to make the playoffs to be able to then go on those runs. Yeah.
It's again, look at the players that you have.
Fair.
We're not saying you're going to get 12 fourth liners here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't something out of what's your buddy's show called again?
Shoresy.
Yeah, this isn't something out of Shoresy.
Up next, we're going to do some stuff. I have some video to play from Ray Ferraro talking about Jake Oettinger, but I do want to ask these guys a couple more questions about Jason Robertson, since this is the theme of the show here on DLS Stars podcast.
Mando is a men's deodorant brand that's focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. Mando overtly calls out more colorful parts of men's bodies, such as pits, belly buttons, butt cracks, your gonads, and the grundle. I don't need to tell you what that is. Created by a
Just
doctor
don't dip it in your Frosty.
I'm not. Yeah. Well, some people dip everything in their Frosty.
No
apparently.
judging here. No judgment.
That's going to be pretty tough to dip your grundle in a Frosty. You may be able to pour your Frosty on the grundle, but I don't know how you're going to dip it in there. So anyway, created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Mando's starter pack comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off the Gene Simmons starter pack with our exclusive code. That's Family Jewels starter pack. Use code DLLS at shopmando.com.
Thanks, Luds. Let's talk about game time. There are plenty of games coming up, whether it's the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Final, baseball games all over the place, the soccer CONCACAF Gold Cup that Sam is now a huge fan of is about to start, and, of course, the NFL season is rapidly approaching, although for some not fast enough. Well, you need to use Game Time. It's the best hack to get the best tickets, authentic tickets. You get all sorts of great options, including last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. All-inclusive pricing, seat views, everything worthwhile. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code DLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Hey, Sam, what time is it?
Game time. Tonight. Game
All right.
time.
It is Game 4. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but
6 years between games.
yeah, don't get me distracted. You're going to give me this. Hey, Elijah, anytime you want to use the squirrel reference, it's perfect for
I
Sam.
have a good one if you want me to break it out right now.
My
Breaking
question.
news.
Do you?
Spaceballs 2
That's
officially
such a
released
squirrel.
2027.
I love
The
Spaceballs.
Schwartz Awakens.
That is definitely not anything to do with this. Although Grundles, maybe. You never know. Buds, Sam, both of you. This was something that was mentioned as something that Jeff Merrick said on his show, The Sheet. And he mentioned that the first RFA negotiation with Jason Robertson was quote-unquote tricky, and said there is fear about his arbitration case next summer. I think that's absolute garbage. Why? Because I don't care if a player and his agent play hardball. That's the business. right? You can't expect a GM and his staff to play hardball to try to do the best thing for their team and then turn around and give a player a hard time because they held out or they waited as long as they could. If that player's difficult in all aspects of life, whether it's in the dressing room, showing up for meetings, that's a different story. But just because somebody's willing to dig in and support themselves in a contract negotiation is not something that should deter, like, oh, he's not going to re-sign here because the GM doesn't, his agent's a pain and it's just, and not saying this anything about Robertson, but just in general, this is going to be a hard negotiation. No, that's the job. And I'm not saying that Jim Nill is afraid. If anything, that's why I'm saying this reporting is nonsense. Because if you're an NHL general manager, not everyone's going to be like the Jake Oettinger deal, where it's, hey, you see that Swayman? Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, does that work for you? Great, done. Yeah. Or the Wyatt Johnston one, which came together. Those are great, and everybody loves a quick deal. But I'm not, and I'm not sure Jeff Merrick is saying this specifically, but you're not looking to trade Jason Robertson because in a year from now, it might be a tricky arbitration. You still have his rights. It's more about Jason Robertson's a 40-plus goal scorer multiple times. He's a point-a-game player's floor.
Yeah.
He can be higher than that. His number is probably going to start with a 10-plus.
Yeah.
His next deal. And even though the cap goes up, you gave mikkorantanen 12, and you're going to have to give other guys. Thomas Harley's going to need money. Jim Nill's already looking at this. He's a forecaster for, what does he say, this year and 5 years. Right, that's his famous line. So I just wanted to rant about that reporting because if you want to talk about freeing up cap space, you want to talk about playoff style, you want to talk about roster remakes, Luds, I got time for that all day. But his next one, he might hold out or it might go into training camp and it might be hard to come to a deal. That's the job.
That's where he gets that stuff from because that's what Robo's done. Robo's always been a late guy to sign.
And I think 2022 he came in late.
Yeah, that's the one we're talking about.
I think what the thing is I think you're saying that because as a general manager, you don't want guys to drag into the regular season. That's it. I mean,
sure.
Maybe if he means that. I don't think Jim wants that. I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think the player should want that. But regardless of, I think possibly there's a track record of that happening. You know what I mean?
His agent too, isn't
it?
Yeah, and his agent is Pat Brisson. This isn't Robo. Robo's got the guy that, like you said, if he gets $10 million, dude, thanks much. I don't. If I got to sit out, but I just think now maybe that's today because I can tell you that people that I played with, they're like, I'm not sitting out, so let's just take what we're going to take. Like,
right,
you know
which
what I mean?
Is great, except that if you leave money on the table, and I understand the whole, I'm not saying I'm a team guy, it's admirable, but this is the business, and if you can get ruthlessly traded against your will, like mikkorantanen got traded, he didn't want to leave Colorado. If that can happen on that side, the player absolutely has the right to not be difficult, but to dig their feet in and get what their value is. And I don't hold that against him.
Yeah, and I just think when he says that, I think it's like it's about dragging on into the regular season.
I think I think that comment, the way I interpret that, Sam, is more of if that's something you're bringing up about possibly trading him, it's because you're worried it's going to be a big number. And that's not going to fit in our future cap projection. That's more of a concern than it might be difficult.
Yeah,
I don't think that Jim Nill thinks it's a concern.
No.
He might say, hey, that's going to be a tough one. They'll dig in and do it. That's their job.
Yeah, and we talked to Janko when he was on our show, and he said, he likes to be fair always. Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to win a negotiation. He doesn't want the player to win a negotiation. He wants everyone to feel that they landed on the right number and they're going to be open to getting there. So if they feel Jason Robertson wants to stay here and they feel that he's part of their future, they'll figure it out. They're not worried about that. And I think that's the right way to look at it.
One last thing. I saw another report. James Myrtle was on Sportsnet 590 in Toronto, said Matt Duchene is probably going to re-sign with Dallas. So we know Duchene likes it here. We know he wants to stay here. We also know what he said.
Yep.
We didn't play that because we haven't gotten to the audio from end of season availability of Sagan or Duchene, and we might get it next week. We'll see. There's, to keep making changes. We don't have to. We have new stuff, but he said he might want a little security, which is a nice way of saying he wants more than the 1 year deal. But the question for me on that side is Matt Duchene, knowing the 2 year, like he's a good fit for this team. He seems to work well as a personality in this room. He's a great regular season player. He had a phenomenal year.
Yep.
He made a couple of great plays in the playoffs, but he didn't perform. You talk, Luds, you said I don't want to single out one guy when we were talking about Marchment. Duchesne's in that as well, right? He was snakebit. Now, he created a ton of chances. He hit posts. He missed shots. And Luds, you look at me and go, that's great. If it doesn't go in the net, you're not helping. So do you want Matt Duchene back?
Yeah, I think he's, but again, I go back to that player that's on that line with those two. I think you've got to find a player on that line. You don't have to worry about your fourth line.
Yep.
I don't even know if you have to worry so much about the third or 2.5 or whatever you want to call your middle six. I just think you need it because, again, I think Granlund fits up there with Hintz and Mikko.
He does.
I think that's obviously a good fit. That's why we're having this conversation about Robo, apparently, right? So
possibly, yeah.
If it is Robo, then aren't you able to go find two players? Again, I can use Brad Marchand. Okay, he's going to get $8 million a year minimum. And I'm not saying he's the guy.
Well, but that was the question Sean asked us the other day, and I wrote that down. Would you trade Robo for other
5
things?
years ago? It has nothing to do with the way he's playing now.
But
he's identity.
So you think he's going to make player. 8+?
Yeah, of course he is. The way he's playing now, he might win a Conn Smythe.
So here's my thing, and I agree with you. I'm not arguing here. Marchand is a phenomenal playoff player still to this day. His regular season numbers are not what they used to be. So you're getting him for what he could bring you for the playoffs, not for the regular season. Would you trade Robertson for other assets, whether it's an NHL player now, picks, or a combination of the two, which, by the way, it might not be Mikko Rantanen in return, but it shouldn't be that far away, right? 2 firsts in Stankoven, maybe 1 first in a guy like Stankoven, because Robo's a young player in his prime making a ton. If you could get Brad Marchand for 3 years, knowing he's aging and had health problems more recently, but you're hoping that you could get playoff Brad, is that worth it to give up on Robo?
I have to see what the whole roster is.
Yeah.
Because I think that, to have him there, because again, if you have a roster, are we taking a step back from where thinking like what if somebody moves and you bring in a couple players because you bring them in and you look at it and go, I don't know if we're much better than last year, if we're much different than last year. Well, then I don't want Brad Marchand. I don't need him because I'm looking at that kind of guy that's going to help us get over the hump, right? I mean, I hear Zibanejad's name out there too.
I saw. Yeah, well,
now there's a big body.
The entire
there's
Rangers
the
core is getting decimated.
Yeah, right. And Kreider. I mean, I know
you mentioned Keandre Miller the other day.
Yeah, I did. But now another left-handed defenseman.
Well, you notice that your buddy Pat Verbeek might just be trying to reassemble the 2020 New York Rangers.
Well, because I think that people feel that team's not as bad as what everything was made out to be about them. There's a reason that people are saying Zibanejad and Kreider and Trouba, like, these are good players.
Adam Fox, Miller.
Maybe it was the location. Maybe it was something else. I mean, maybe it was just the way that Kreider was handled, and he's a leader in that room, and he's been a leader in that.
13 years
with him. And you get pissed off, and then what happens is the guy that started a lot of this stuff gets signed to a new deal, meaning the general manager.
Yeah.
I mean, I was kind of like, whoa.
We all were.
So now all of a sudden the guys that he pissed off, they're all the ones that are leaving because you can't have them around now because, again. So I just say I've always liked Brad Marchand. And I think it's not about the goals for me with that guy. He's the guy that understands and knows how to stir the pot. Does he cross the line sometimes? Yes. Does he lick people times? Yes. Does he?
Hopefully not too often.
You know. But that's what you get with a guy like that. And if he's in with the right group, he becomes a huge asset. So I mean, how many people are lining up for Bennett? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm like, if I'm Bennett, I'm thinking, why do I even want to leave here?
You see the rumor yesterday? It was they're talking extension.
Yeah.
Well,
Florida.
that makes sense. Doesn't that make sense?
Why wouldn't he want to be there?
Because that means that Marchand won't be there. I don't think they can get them all in. I think they can. And Ekblad is another one, which is probably going to play for free. You know what I mean? He probably would.
Yeah.
Would Jamie Benn do the same?
I think Jamie wants to be here. Oh, you mean here or there?
No, here.
I don't know.
Play
but
for free.
Here's the difference: is I think that what that team in Florida has is the ability to win again.
And Dallas feels they're close. They really do.
Dallas has felt like they're close, and they're not close. They just proved it again.
They're pretty close. They're just not close enough.
Yeah.
But they're not.
That's like nothing. That means nothing to me.
They believe, and you heard Duchesne Sam talking about, like, he goes, we're knocking on the door, right? Now, do they need something else to come?
That's the guy that has 30 points in 70 playoff games.
Coaching change,
right, Sam?
Maybe that does it.
Okay.
Add a player or two that changes the mentality a bit. This isn't like reinventing the Chicago Blackhawks right now, right? They're not.
No.
But you could be 2 feet away. You could be 2 miles away.
Yeah.
I understand your point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we're not close. I mean, we just proved
Jamie's
we're not
going to want to go anywhere else, is he?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't think so. Here's my only point, and to answer your original question.
You're allowed to have lots of points.
Yeah, but my only point here with this, to sum everything up that you're saying, is I truly believe, looking at this roster, I was just kind of drawing out what it would look like. There are plenty of regular season goals on this team.
You think?
Guys that explode in the regular season.
Including the power play guys you currently don't have signed.
Yes.
Granlund, Duchesne.
So some of those are being back. I'm saying that,
the Robertson trade.
So you got Robertson.
I'm going to interject for 1 second.
Go.
Hey, Robert. Absolutely not. Okay, go ahead.
Which Robert?
Oh, no.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Something that he got on a text message. Okay.
You
All I'm
talking to
saying
our
is,
buddy?
I believe the Stars have plenty of regular season offense. They need the playoff thing. So when you say, would you trade someone like Robertson, who has all this success and everything, for a guy like Marchand, just hoping he's a playoff guy? I think 100%. I think maybe the Stars drop to third in their division, or maybe a top wild card.
You think they're strong enough that they can do that and still make the playoffs?
I believe this team is plenty good enough to score enough goals in the regular season, even minus 1 or 2 of these guys we're talking about, to bring in a couple of those Marchand types to build them for the playoffs. That's just where I feel.
Yeah. There's a lot more of this to talk about. We'll get to that next here on the DLS Stars podcast. But first, let's talk about the DLLS Die Hard program. Check out the shirt that Sam and I did not coordinate, but we're both wearing today, the captain shirt. It was just the next one in the laundry pile. Clean laundry, I'd like to point out. But you can get a shirt like this by signing up for to be a DLS Die Hard. You can do that. Scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen over here, or if you're listening to our audio platforms, go to alldlls.com. And you get a free T-shirt of your choice from the DLS merch store when you sign up. Now, if you're a DLS diehard already, you can get these shirts with a 20% discount by being a diehard. And there's lots of them available, whether it's the captain shirt, the Moose, there's the Finnish Mafia, which
just
is
in time for Father's Day.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you better be quick.
Dad right now.
You've got the brand new Otter shirt, which I was wearing yesterday for the first time. You've got the Mikko finisher, the Wyatt 16-bit. Plus, there's a whole bunch of other ones, whether it's for the Cowboys, the Rangers, the Mavs, the Wings, or just the DLS ones in general. The big flag logo is great in several different colors. The DLS skyline. You get the point. Lots of great shirts. That's part of it. Sam, your favorite camo sweatshirt is on sale right now. I think it's 20% off.
Let's get another one.
So you could get one for even more than 20% off. How about that?
I like that.
Plus, of course, everything that Sam and Sean just dropped a new article today. Sam has been doing a lot of writing, even though the season is already over, which I guess is part of the job of being the writer. But there's also a lot of great things, including the trip for the Cowboys show. Yes, we're celebrating a different show, getting to go to Vegas. The DLS Cowboys show is headed on the road for Monday Night Football in mid-November. Cowboys and the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. They are going to stay at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino. Beautiful spot, right on the Strip, and they're going to have a great time. A couple of days. You don't have to be coming from DFW. You can fly from anywhere and meet up with them on the travel packages. Check it all out. Of course, great perks to be a diehard. We could spend the entire show just talking about this robo trade, and we should probably spend multiple shows. I do have some things prepared that we will probably have to bump to our next show, which is absolutely fine. But let's talk about that power play for a second before we get into some other NHL news. Sam, you looking at the list, right? And I was kind of going through that this morning going, okay, well, the last time the Stars played a game, right, you don't have Matt Duchesne right now. You might re-sign him, but he was one of your first power play, along with Hintz, Rantanen, Wyatt Johnston, and Thomas Harley. You don't have Mikael Granlund right now because he's a UFA. Sagan, Robertson, Marchment, Heiskanen. I think that you need to add at least one of those two for your top line power play, because I believe that Maverick Bourque is capable of being on your second unit. I'm not ready to promote him to the first unit. Give him some time. But he's got the skill set and he has the confidence in himself he could do that. From a center perspective, as much as I love Duchesne, I do believe that you could go Hintz, Johnston, Steele, Beck, and be very good down the middle. I think Sam Steele, look, your team is better when he's your fourth line center because it means that somebody else is up there above him. Sam Steele can easily be in your top 9.
And it gives you that type of player you're looking for on another line.
And I'm totally good with that.
Line. Yep.
Maybe, for added, Luds was saying that fourth line stuff isn't necessarily the issue. It's not, because whether it was Colin Blackwell or Oscar Beck or Steele.
Well, the reason I said that is because you have Steele down there.
Right.
I would move Steele up. I'm saying I think it completes your. I'm not saying he can't play up there.
Right.
I'm saying when you have the
but
right
your team's
three,
better,
and now you're good down the middle.
there.
Yeah, well,
so
but Jamie hasn't played much.
I forgot about Jamie Benn. Jamie's on that.
Jamie, Steele, and another one is what you want to see.
Yeah, I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that when you say Steele in your third line center, I think you have to have another top 3
so
center.
You want a top 9 center,
and I don't want to downplay Steele because I said I really like Steele.
Yep.
But I think he's so good in that role, and the way that minutes are allocated, whether the next coach is the same way, they play about the same amount of minutes.
So if you bring Duchesne back,
Duchesne or Granlund, essentially.
So if you brought Duchesne back, you'd have your centers the same.
Yep.
Now it's about putting in the pieces. Now Robo can play on the top line.
Would you bring Zibanejad in before Duchesne if you could? If you could fit it in.
I don't know how you'd make that money work.
That's not my question.
Yeah.
I don't know his playoff
I love Zibanejad as a player, and that one-timer is still lethal, but I don't know if it's because that whole thing in New York went stale. I'm curious if he's the same player he's been.
Would you rather play against Zibanejad or play against Matt Duchesne?
Duchesne.
Probably Duchesne.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find players that are more difficult to play.
I understand. Yeah.
The identity.
And he's a.
I'm not. I mean, he makes $10 million.
He's
something
lethal
like
power.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's much of an option, right?
Just a question.
Yeah, it's a good question though. We'll get into more of that. The Kreider thing is interesting because it's officially the trade went through. He's now an Anaheim Duck. He had to waive his no trade clause. The Rangers get a prospect and they do I think it was a pick swap. I think.
Yeah, I saw a stat. I was just telling Les before the show that in the last 4 years, the only guys who have as many goals in the regular season and playoffs as Kreider is like the McDavids, Rantanens, McKinnons, Draisaitl's. That's crazy.
Well, he's a goal scorer.
What Beaker's doing there, he's bringing in a Kreider to show the other guys how you play at the front of the net. That's what he's doing. He's giving him a new lease on lease on life, so to speak. Clean, fresh. You're not playing in a fishbowl anymore. You're going to be down here. You're going to enjoy the weather.
Your arena will be half empty.
Exactly. Like it's a total opposite of where you've been playing. Yeah. Now we can just come here, exhale, and play and show. I need some guys here that need to learn how to play that area of the game.
Looking at some of the other notes, we can move some of this to tomorrow. The NHL award show is tonight. It's at 5 Central Time before Game 4. It's on TNT in the U.S. They'll announce the Vezina and the Hart Trophy. We'll talk about that tomorrow on the show, as well as the results of Game 4 and how that went down.
Who do you think should win the Hart Trophy?
Well, I was going to ask you that, but I've got some other things. So we
can push.
I'm going to say let's go wait till tomorrow because
then we'll already know.
Because of two things. I want to ask you a quick question about the Jack Adams, because we never talked about Spencer Carberry and everybody else. Carberry, the Capitals head coach, won the Jack Adams. He had 464 points, including 81 first place votes. Right now, many times the Jack Adams, I feel, is voted on as the one who made the biggest change for his team. Not necessarily the best coach, but the biggest surprise. Sort of feels like that, right? Yeah. Washington barely made the playoffs the year before, and that was a bit of a surprise. Nobody had them picked to win their division and be number one in their conference, and they had a huge jump. Scott Arniel finished second in the voting with 52. They won the President's Trophy. If it was just about which team had the best year, Arniel should have won the Jack Adams that way. Marty St. Louis got his team to the playoffs, kind of like Carberry did with Washington the year before. So he was third. Jim Montgomery was fourth, even though he wasn't even the St. Louis Blues coach for the whole season, but getting his team to the playoffs, right? Yeah. Dean Evison was fifth. He had a great job losing one of his big guys to horrible tragedy in Gaudreau before the season and still doing what they did. Travis Green in Ottawa was sixth. John Cooper might be the best coach in the entire league, Luds.
He's never won one.
He was too boring. He was too boring this year.
Right.
They were too good.
So I guess Michael and Pete DeBoer got 2 third-place votes, by the way. He finished 12th in the voting. Was Carberry your no-brainer?
Yeah, and I think for a guy coming in is the new sheriff in town, so to speak, and to be able to handle the personalities that are on that team and be able to handle the situation,
the distraction,
yes,
and still win,
and to be able to navigate his group through that kind of a year, knowing that every day, especially as you got down to the last month,
it was a
talk
circus.
About distractions, everything that goes on around Ovi, and then to be able to bring in a couple new guys that fit into that whole thing. So a lot of that goes to the general manager and making that stuff fit. But I just think that to have that big thing hanging over his head, not his head, but over the team all year long, and everything's talked about the goals and everything else, to be able to do that and finish where they finished, and then take it deep into the playoffs, his first kick at the can at that. And I even heard him say at some point, he goes, he does a great interview too. And but just talk about the things that he's learned over the course of the year and what I've learned in the playoffs. And I'm watching what Florida has. Nobody else talks about Edmonton. Any time you hear people and coaches and players and analysts talk, they all talk about Florida, about how they go about their business, how they play in certain areas of the ice, and what they do here and there. So they are the model, obviously. But I think, for Carberry. But again, it's always about, now where do we go from here? There's no place to go but down. I just won the Coach of the Year thing.
Now you're going to get fired.
And the next one is lose your job. I don't think that's going to happen.
The one for me that I'll say is, just like I said with Dustin Wolf, if they made the playoffs, he wins the...
Ryan Huska does?
No, I'm saying if the Flames made the playoffs, he would win Rookie of the Year. For me, if the Columbus Blue Jackets made the playoffs, Dean Evison wins the Jack Adams, and I would have had Dean Evison, Carberry, and Arneal as my.
That's a good point. Yeah, three. that would have navigated a tough one. Ian with a super chat. Haskin 99 Cup here. How much of the quote harder to play against issue can be fixed via a new head coach? Think that pacifist Peter definitely played a role in how soft we looked.
You don't fix the hard to play against with a new coach. You do that with a couple players. But on the other side of that, you can be hard to play against if you take away certain areas of the ice more than leaving. Again, when you want to lay a red carpet down to your goaltender, that's not being hard to play against. But if you get everybody on board, I always use that rope analogy to where they're tied. There's a rope tied to every player. When I go, he goes, goes, and we're all taking away the high danger areas, the quality scoring areas, all that kind of stuff. And it works in all three zones. And you've got guys that are harder to play against, and it's not because they're 6'5" or 6'6".
Yeah.
When you look at Stankoven's hard to play against.
Yes, he is.
Sometimes there's a benefit of being 4'0". You know what I mean? Because you can,
I don't know, Sam. What do you have?
Right? Yeah.
You get into bars easily.
You just have to have players that drag people into that fight, and it doesn't have to be the biggest guys and the toughest guys. And you're hard to play against. You're hard to play against as a group of 5 every time you're out there.
And isn't that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's Florida has 3 tiers of being hard to play against. They have the system that makes them hard to play against, as you just said. They have the players that make it hard by being physical, not getting pushed into their own net. And then they have the a-hole Brad Marchands that make it even harder to play against. And that's why they just rub you the wrong way all the way through.
Yeah, and I would add in one other thing. They have the coach, and they have the players that respect the coach. Because Maurice knows when to flip. And when he flips, they stand at attention. Yeah. And I think you can't have – I've had coaches that scream up and down the whole game for 82 games, and you lose players. I think he's that guy that knows when to let it out.
Yep.
And I think the way he goes about his business with all these players, and when you hear him talk about players, very rarely does he talk about the on-ice stuff. It's about the guy off the ice. So you're like, I want to play for that guy. I respect what he does and how he goes about it.
Guys, we're at the end. I didn't even get
Elijah has
my
finished his chips.
I didn't get to the Ray Ferraro clips that I want to play.
Chips.
We'll have to do that at another time. But guess what? We have a guest tomorrow. Steve P. Peters. Petey is coming back. Our fellow North Dakota guy is going to talk for a couple of segments. We will talk about Game 4, which is tonight. We'll talk about the NHL awards for Hart and Vezina.
There's Stanley Cup Playoffs are going on.
Yeah,
we didn't even mention it.
It's happening tonight.
Well, it was on the run sheet, but we talked about trades for so long. We'll have to wait. The game tonight will be Game 4 in Florida. We'll talk about that. We'll get Petey's take on the Dallas Stars season and the Stanley Cup Final, and we will also look at Hart, Vezina, etc.
Who wins tonight?
I'm going with Florida.
I have a hunch the Panthers, but we'll see if Edmonton get their head
Oh,
right.
I hope Edmonton.
I wanted
wins.
to-
I
I
want
wanted to see a
want
good
it to go
game.
the whole way.
But-
I want Edmonton to win.
There you have it. So for Luds, for Costanza, for off-screen queso, I'm Owen. Thanks for joining us. 1 o'clock tomorrow again, 1 Central Time with Petey. Oh, you need
20
20
more
seconds.
seconds.
The
Oh.
clock is different in
So
here.
now we can talk about Spaceballs too. It's
So-
going to be in 2027. It's going to have Mel Brooks back as
Wait,
Yogurt.
what are we talking about?
Spaceballs 2, the new movie.
I was going to ask you
sequel.
more about Game 4 tonight.
No,
If
this
you want
is
to
the
talk
more
about a
important
movie.
part. This is the more important part. Rick Moranis will reprise his role. It's going to be fantastic.
He's going to be Dark Helmet again?
It's only in theaters, 2027. It's going to be
So
excellent.
you have 2 years before. I mean, get
I
yourself
have to
ready
watch
now.
I have to watch the
Are you
first one
camping out
6
tonight?
or 7 times before then.
All right, we're good.
Thanks, Elijah.
1 o'clock tomorrow. Thanks for joining us here on DLS.
We all silly like the mayor.